Welcome to A Direction Forward, Season 2, Episode 12. And I'm going to talk about senior relationships, dating as a senior. A lot of people have asked me to talk about dating as a senior. And so I thought, what the heck? Why not? So, will you find love if you're a senior? Will you ever be able to um, be with involved with someone, uh, whether it's just dating or relationship, or if you're looking for marriage again. So some of the things that I've come across recently is not only do we have baggage, but we also have roadblocks. And so a lot of the roadblocks come with, of course, from your childhood sometimes, or just like the baggage, we just kind of bring them along. So we all want, or I think most of us all want a relationship. We all want to have it. We all do. We want to be with someone. And they found that it's better if you're in a relationship, whether it's committed or just buddies or friends or whatever you want to call it, if you have to label it. So it's still important, even if you're a senior citizen, to be to find that. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's not easy. It is not easy to find someone to be in a relationship. In fact, it can almost seem impossible at times, especially if you're struggling with some emotional roadblocks that you might have, like I said, instilled at a younger age or older age, or you might not even be aware that these roadblocks exist. So some of the things you need to look out for with a roadblock is, number one, learn to open up your mouth. Communication. And I talk about communication in some of my other podcasts. And it's easy to talk about it. It's easy to have a podcast about it. But it's hard to do. I'm going to tell you right now, it's probably one of the hardest things to do. So a few years back, a friend of mine, kind of told me a story about their grandparents and how the husband was getting ready. He wasn't doing too good, and he was going to be passing on. And so they kind of sat down and had some moments together. And so the wife, said to the grandfather that, she always made what she thought his favorite food was on Sunday. And it was stuffed cabbages. Now, any of you guys that have had stuffed cabbages, you know that it's a pain in the culo to make. And not only that, but it stinks up your home for a couple of days. But anyway, she thought her husband enjoyed it. So she would get up every Sunday and she would make the stuffed cabbage, and he would eat it with, gusto. And so she said, well, would you like me to cook your favorite, meal? Sunday's coming up, and would you like me to cook it? And she said, or can you live, a weekend without having your cabbage? And he looked back at her and he said, can you? And he sent that question back to her, of course. And she said, they kind of back and forth a little bit. And then he kind of finally came out and said, I never really liked that stuffed cabbage that much. I just ate it because you enjoyed cooking it so much. And she goes, I enjoyed it. She goes, I hated doing it. I only did it because you were eating it with so much gusto. And he's like, what? I did it just for you. And she says, well, I did it just for you. So again, there you have it. Two people that, have lived together for, 4 or 5 decades, and they never communicated on one thing, on Sunday dinner, how she hated making the stuffed cabbage, and he really hated eating it. So again, it kind of tells you, a little bit of a laugh there, that communication is very important. And a lot of us fear, I think, of getting rejected. If we just, really, in a polite way, of course, you don't want to be like really nasty, but in a polite way of letting someone else know, that you do have a roadblock, or you do have a fear, or you do have something that, is instilled in you, to letting that other person know, because you're fear that they're going to reject you for it, or fear that they're going to turn and walk away. And you really kind of like that person and you really kind of like being with them. So it's okay, to open up your mouth, and it's okay to say, something, especially, these days when people are not so willing, to spend those decades, with another person. If you're a senior, of course, you might only have a decade left or two. So you really want to be nice to that person. You really want to be kind to that person. But in the same token, you do need to communicate. Communication is very important and key in any relationship, especially if you're looking for love. Love. Um, it's not that you're just not communicating with your partner. You're likely, maybe you're misunderstanding or there's a disagreement. And that could possibly lead to problems down the road, even a breakup. So make sure you're communicating openly and honestly and see how that goes. And also, don't be afraid of the dark. We can easily forgive a child who's afraid of the dark. The real tragedy of life is when we're afraid of the dark, or even the light. For those of us who grew up in toxic families, fear is ever present. I mean, um, we learn about love through our family. And so, you're taught about love from an early age. If your parents never really showed affection, or if they weren't like the huggy grabby people, then more than likely I would say that you're probably not going to be a huggy grabby person. Or maybe you will. Maybe you'll just say, you know what, my parents were like that, and I'm going to be just the opposite. And that's the case. But sometimes it's just, you see from how your parents react, and you kind of model that um, um, for yourself for a long time. Also, fear of rejection, fear of commitment, and fear of intimacy. Oh my goodness, especially if you're a senior, fear of intimacy is ever, something that's a topic that, you have to discuss, but sometimes you don't like to, you got to just, as I call, put your big girl panties on and just kind of talk about it. And so without that, you're not going to be able to know, the other person and be able to communicate with whatever maybe fears they're having, or whatever resistance, roadblocks that they might be having or throwing up. And this often means putting yourself out there, being more open and honest with your partner. And if you can't even do that, maybe seek professional help or therapy. um, Again, only you can decide, what's going to be good for you, whether it's therapy or, just maybe talking to yourself and working it out, or, better yet, talking to the other person and working it out. So, you're the only one that can decide that. One of the best ways that you can trust someone is to trust them. You can only, you have to be able to trust someone, and you can't have love if you don't have trust. So this could be really difficult to find, especially if you've been hurt in the past. So if you're struggling to trust your partner, try to build it by being open and honest with them, and truly sharing your feelings and thoughts and being reliable. I know that I talk a lot about my upbringing and what's happened to me in my life, my story, I like to say. And so those of you that have listened to my podcast know my story, and know that from an early age, the only person I was told to trust is myself. So giving up that trust to another person is sometimes a bit of a struggle for me. And I do know that in order to have love, you have to have communication, you have to have trust. Um, Assume, that everybody's going to let you down. That's okay. But it's just not true. Everybody's not going to let you down. It takes faith. It takes faith and looking at yourself and trusting people with absolute, that they're going to be able to help you. They're going to have your back. And it's the key to finding love, that you can't like slam the door on everybody. You've got, at some point, you've got to keep that door open, and to bring that into your life. Um, if you've never looked at another person to, ask for help, try it, I mean, attempt it, at least attempt it. So having, people around you, good time talking and conversation, it it all instills, trusting and putting, yourself out there, putting your roadblocks to the side. Um, and again, you're the only one that can do that. You're the only person that can do that. Um, there's, moments, that you're going to realize that, you had to, go to someone else for help. And, it could be a real stomach turner, a real, just kind of painful or, fight or flight, thing that, you're just like, oh, I can't do it. I can't do it. But yet, you've got to be able to build that bridge with someone and that trust, in order to, be able to go on with that one. And once you learn to trust, it's the best thing that's ever happened. It really is. You can only feel a connection with someone when you drop your shields. So if you're not feeling connected, it can be difficult to feel loved and to be loved back. So most probably you're not feeling disconnected from everything and everyone. It's just that you're missing out on what life has to offer if you can't, drop your shield. So make sure you're taking the time to connect with your person, your partner on a deeper level by truly listening to what they have to say and being open to accepting them just the way they are. Um, Billy Joel song, Just the Way You Are. Be present, pay attention, and be aware that everybody else is going through the same struggles that you are. Even feeling like when you can't connect with someone, just practice looking looking at the others if you're looking into a mirror. And it might be much easier to feel compassion and love and experience connection with that person. And life at large can be experienced like a huge mirror. The more we relax, the more others relax around us, and we experience life as a flow rather than a struggle. And I look at struggles, sometimes as, like I said, as roadblocks. So, when you think about being in a roadblock, if you're in a car and you're in a roadblock, you have pretty much three options. One is to sit there until the roadblock clears, and so if you're sitting there till the roadblock clears, then of course, you are stuck with that other person, and hopefully, you're still communicating with them or talking to them, because otherwise it can be, a long time. If you're not, and you're just sitting in the car, like staring off into the horizon, that can be kind of weird too. So look at it as, you're stuck there and that's the only other person, and so strike a conversation. Maybe try to think of something that that they're interested in, or that they show interest in something. It could be just be a song that recently played, or something that you just passed on the road. So you're stuck. You wait for the roadblock to clear. The other one is option B, is to go around the roadblock. And of course, you're only going to do that if your car is capable of doing it and you're not going to get stuck or cause more damage. So again, option B, go around it. And option C, I hate to say, I think is the one that most of us choose, is to turn around and go back. Go back, to your garage, close the garage, you know, shake your hands and say, okay, well, I gave it a go. And that seems to be like a lot of the majority of um, option C. So communication. My mother always told me that you need three things in, whether it's a relationship, a buddy, a friend, marriage, whatever you want to call it nowadays, um, even if you have to put a label on it. So you need three things: love, trust, and communication. And so, you meet someone and, you find out that, you've got common interests, blah, blah, blah. And so everything's going along just rosy. Then comes trust. And, you might have some roadblocks from past experiences there, where you got, slammed, or they cheated on you, or, whatever, it could be. So you've got some trust issues. Then comes communication. And communication, we think about it as the easiest, but it's not. It's the most difficult. And of course, today, we've got the ability to talk, text, email, message, everything except face to face. And so communication is really the most difficult. And you can even tell by the joke that I told about the couple that were together for, 6 decades, that even they had a problem with communication. So I mean, is there any hope for any of us? Yes, there is. Of course there is. But just kind of take the time, and if you do meet that special person, to you know look at maybe the roadblocks that they've set up for you or you've set up for them, and think about A, B, and C, and what you want to do. And it might not be easy for them either. Maybe they're struggling with something that they find it maybe difficult to talk about, and they're worried about your acceptance of them. But they're not going to know unless they let you know which way it's going to go. And so that's really something that I want everybody to think about, that going in a direction forward, you're not going to know, guys, until you put it out there. And are they still going to go in a direction forward? And are you going to go in a direction forward with them? And do you want to? So I hope everybody's having a great day. If you'd like to get in touch with me, you can always do an email at adirectionforward@yahoo.com. Otherwise, over and out for today, and talk to you later.